Welcome to the Trellix Spotlight series. My name is Nick, and I will be your host. Today's session will focus on preventing USB data leakage with Trellix DLP Endpoint device control features. This webinar will be recorded. If you prefer not to participate in the recorded session, please feel free to disconnect at this time. A link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all registered attendees. This webinar is a brief overview covering common use cases and scenarios regarding this topic. It is not intended to be all-encompassing. If assistance is needed, please contact Trellix Technical Support. If you have questions during the webinar, please type them in the Q&A window. This webinar may run longer or shorter based on your participation, and we recommend asking as many questions as you can to make the most of this series. If the Q&A window is not displayed, click the tab at the bottom of your session window and click on the Q&A icon. We will answer the questions during the final section of this webinar. If you experience any audio issues during the webcast, please drop and attempt to reconnect. Our speaker today is George Peña. George is a seasoned professional specializing in Trellix's on-premise and network security administration products. George has been in the tech industry for over 25 years with experience at all levels of customer service, tech support, sales, and consulting before moving into the education field, where he has developed and delivered both custom and standard courses. Ladies and gentlemen, George.
Thank you, Nick. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, from wherever you're watching us in the world. As you can see from our agenda today, what we're doing is a use case investigation around current data security landscape that we're seeing around the world. The purpose of this is, as data security administrators, you can understand a high-level business case statement to then identify and specify specific protection rules that you will need, which will improve your overall business security posture. And as it says here on the bottom on our disclaimer, is the webinar assumes that the participants have a working knowledge of the Trellix data security concepts. The technologies that we will specifically be using for our use case today will be the data loss prevention endpoint, specifically the device control module. So looking at our data security global landscape, so to build out a use case, we have to give a little bit of context as to why we're actually protecting our data. And this is what we are doing here. So our challenge versus compliance. Now, we can see from our challenge point of view, our top three biggest challenges that we're seeing is the insider risk. Well, whether it was talking about a malicious insider, a data leak through a accidental sequence of events that are caused that data to be leaked. Second, you have your regulatory landscape. So you have more government rules, more regulations in our global environment as well. And now we have to cross-border regulations and adhere to them for matching those compliance side of things. 70% of the CISOs, they believe that it's currently not sustainable an effort to keep up with the pace of the challenges that is happening. So our use case today is going to be focused on the protecting of data from falling into the wrong hands through the use of removable storage devices and media in the office, at home, on the move. So we'll be talking about the compliance side of things here. However, the methodology that we'll be talking about today can be utilized across a range of different methodologies and a range of different regulation side of things. So the challenge that will be talked about here is the last one here is the expanding information footprint. So and this relates to the fact that more people are doing more online, more data is being stored online as well inside the cloud, and because the expanding footprint, we have a high risk of data being lost, and that starts to kind of blur when you start to look at people working from home, using personal devices across corporate things. How do we control those things? That won't be a part of what we'll be focusing on in our use case. We'll be focusing on going to be focused on data loss prevention, the endpoint, specifically the device control protection rules module. So first immediate leakage vector to protect is physical leakage. So of breaches, so we look at our Verizon data breach report, and as you can see there, we're talking about the human element. Talking about data breaches where humans were involved. 68% of those breaches had human kind of impact from the insider point of view. So if they picked up something from a phishing email, or they accidentally plugged in something physically into their machine, being shared in between employees. It doesn't matter. There was some human element in the chain of events that caused that data leakage. And now we're not necessarily saying this is it's malicious at this stage. Individual organizations, of course, they'll have to go and do their own investigation and determine what kind of malicious insider, if it was a malicious insider, or was this an accidental data breach. And again, more than 2/3 of the data breaches had attributed it some human element in the chain of events. So when we're looking at the malicious point of view, 35% of the breaches were malicious insider attacks based on the Verizon report. Of that 35%, 90% of those were based on financial motivation. And as you can see, also the time to detect, 200 days on average. So that's a long time for that data to be released in the world that has been exfiltrated by a malicious actor, that they had to do whatever they wanted to do with that data, whatever their intent was. But we're going to be focusing on that 35%. So if you focus on that 35% malicious actors, that means that 65% of all of the breaches had a human element. They weren't malicious, they were accidental. Could have been a user, again, checking on something, clicking on something they shouldn't have, whether they were sharing something they shouldn't have, or whether it was shared internally with the wrong person inside of a team or such. Either way, you had some kind of data leakage, where there was a major or a minor, or a great majority of them were not intended actions, right? And again, DLP Endpoint provides a comprehensive protection for all potential leakage channels, including removable storage devices, the cloud, email, instant messaging, printing, clipboard, screenshots, application file access, network shares, and file sharing applications. So we're going to be focusing on this use case on device control for this webinar. So looking at the report in 2024, USB devices continue to be a significant vector for malware attacks. They increasingly use as targeted attacks and campaigns. 51% of malware were designed for USB devices in 2024, nearly six-fold increase from 9% in 2019 to now 54% in 2024. And again, and 52% of that malware can be used with removable storage devices. So if we look at the effects of just malware and data loss contributed through physical devices, malware effects on storage devices bypasses network security, right? That's a big one right there. And they could load scripts, load malicious code, ransomware. 70% of the attacks relate to ransomware, right? File system corruption, right? So plugging in a USB can damage also the machine, cause sudden power outages, that causes loss of data, right? So in a different form, right? Now, direct data exfiltration leakage through sensitive content, having sensitive content leak through removable storage devices or any device that can store, you're looking at important sensitive content that relates to compliances. You have all the different compliances of that data. You have, most importantly, intellectual property. Your company design schematics, your trade secrets, patents, things like formulas and processes, financial data from both customer, employee, and all of their banking details. You have also medical records, pricing plans. There's all kinds of sensitive data, in that they're looking to exfiltrate on a malicious side of things for profitability. That is the motivation, right? So saying more, building the case for why, first line defense, you want to protect data loss prevention, targeting the physical side of things. So device control is going to prevent unauthorized data exfiltration. You could initially monitor, block physical USBs, plug and play devices based on properties, mitigate the insider, reduce the risk of malicious insiders using unauthorized external devices that they're using to copy either intentionally or unintentionally. A lot of the leakage is accidental, but there you go. So we could enforce rules to monitor or plainly block right? So I'm going to actually later show a little quick scenario where you can easily kind of start to efficiently monitor devices, in stealth mode without disrupting or alarming users, right? And then, or you can use that same rule converted and just say block all, right? Block all, plug and play, and removable storage. So there's extreme ways, and then, or you could do a custom rule. So that's what we're going to kind of look. But it's also going to help enforce compliance. So by enforcing, blocking all unapproved devices and allowing approved devices to the approved users, that's going to help prevent data leakage via these external devices to help meet any regulatory compliance of protecting sensitive data. Also, you're going to get device visibility, right? Through EPO, you can identify and track the devices people are attempting to connect. You're going to have the date, the time. Also, we could then later go into the incident manager, do analysis, investigations, create a case to escalate through management. We have our analytic dashboards that will give us our top 10s. What are our top violators? What were the top classifications? And we could do custom queries and reports. We can build custom dashboards to easily, at a glance, answer those questions. Am I compliant? Am I at risk? Where am I at risk? And you could drill down and do actionable items. Our data security business use case. In this particular use case, TechLearn, a fictitiously globally renowned education company, has acquired data loss prevention endpoint to prevent malicious, accidental data loss from local endpoints via removable storage devices. So let's take a minute to look at and analyze our business statement. So TechLearn has acquired data loss prevention endpoint. Initial priority is for data protection to prevent all unauthorized removable storage and plug and play devices from being accidentally or intentionally exfiltrated through physical external means. The company wants to block all USBs, allow some users to use allowed devices and block all others, allow privileged users to be monitored only. At the violation of an incident, they want to generate an incident with a notification referring the user to the company's security policy at their website. So for the rule block all USBs, that's going to be targeted to all users in the company. Allow some users to use allowed devices and block all others. We're going to create a EPO admins user group to list who are those allowed users, right? Through integration of our Active Directory. Allow privileged users to be monitored only. So we have Betty White, who is the executive founder of the company. We never want her to mistakenly ever be blocked by any general block rules. So she's going to be our privileged user. Now, to successfully implement the business use case, we'll need to create the following. We need to create these definitions, the user group definitions, to have the allowed users to use the allowed USBs called EPO admins. And then we'll create a device template definitions for the approved list of all of the USBs that are allowed to be used only by the approved users. And we're going to call that list of devices definitions allow removable storage USB devices, and then we'll create a privileged user. So this user is always monitored, and that's going to be for Betty White. Cool. Now, the next thing that we'll need to create following that is we'll create a rule set. So a rule set is the top level container that's going to house all your individual rules. So we're going to name our rule set block, plug and play removable storage devices, and then within that rule set container, we're going to create these following three rules. The block removable storage devices exclude the EPO admins. Block removable storage devices for the EPO admins exclude the following devices. And then monitor the approved removable storage devices for excluded EPO admins. So again, we're going to focus on creating these definitions. So we'll go here and let me go into my console here. And so I'm going to go here to my menu. I'm going to scroll down, go to the DLP Policy Manager. Okay, so in the DLP Policy Manager, you're going to see the Definitions tab, right? Now, if we scroll down under source and destination, you're going to see end user groups. So I already created my groups. You'll see included there is EPO admins. Normally I can do actions new, create a new group, and I'll give it a name, which is already existing there. I already created that. And normally when you add, you can either add a user group or a user or an OU from your integrated Active Directory. Since I created this as EPO admins, if I click add a user group, it's going to connect me to the domain controller. I'm going to scroll down here to users, where on the right side, I should be able to find my EPO admins. So let me scroll down here. I'll select my EPO admins on the bottom right, click OK. So you'll see EPO admins populate with their SID, their UID, and we'll click Save. So we've done that piece. The second thing we need to configure, let me just kind of show you over here that with the EPO admins and Active Directory, if I go to users, if I double click on EPO admins, and I want to just show you the members. These are the members in that group. So there's B Jones, B White. B Jones is who I'm going to concentrate on in our example here. Second thing we need to do as far as definitions is create a device template. The device template will house similar devices. So I'm just created a one for my allow removable storage approved USB. So normally I can go to actions new, I can create a new removable storage template, plug and play, fix hard drive or exclude plug and play. So I'm going to select the removable storage device template and edit. So I created this particular one ahead of time here where I included my approved USB. So I give it a name, I brought over the properties, the bus type if it matches USB, but I could have also added, for example, if it matches FireWire. Or so I could keep adding the plus and say, well, if it matches USB, if it matches SD, I can kind of put all the different bus types. I could add them all in there, long as it matches one of those and it matches the vendor product ID and serial number. It's a match. But anyway, so you can see I can add as many bus types in there. So I'm just going to concentrate on my USBs. So now for the approved list, you have to add the brand, the vendor ID, the model. That is the product ID, and then its particular serial number. Every device has an identifier. So a lot of them have a device serial number. Sometimes they don't, and you have to use like a device instance ID or some other property. So for it to match, it has to match all of your specific properties listed in this device definition. So now the next third item that I need to do under the policy I'm going to use to house my rule set, which is my default DLP policy. If I come here to policy settings for it and click edit, here is where you can go under settings and configure privileged users. Now you can see that right there under settings, privileged users, I already have B White, but normally if I want to add B White or any user, I'll click on the add user button. It will connect me to the registered TechLearn LDAP, go to users, and then I can find what users I want to include, put in there as a privileged user. So I'll select Betty White, click OK. Now you see her populate. You have the path, her UID, her SID, all populates there, all great. Click OK, and now she is defined as a privileged user. So again, she'll never get blocked in a block all rule. All right, so we've done that piece. So the next thing that we'll need to do is create the device control rule set, right? So, and that's the top level container. So we'll go do that and we'll create those rules. So the next thing here, I'm going to come here to menu. I'm going to scroll down here again, go to my DLP policy manager, where you'll see all the rule sets, show built-in rule sets there. You'll see all the sample rule sets that, actually the way I created mine, I started with that default manage, plug and play, removable storage device rule set, that one right there. And I created a duplicate and I used that as a basis to create my rule. So anyway, yeah, so later on we'll kind of look at the this feature. So as you can see, I already created my block, plug and play, removable storage device. Right, and that is my rule set that's going to house my various blocking rules. So I gave it a name. a description. It's optional. And you'll see the data protection and the device control rules. So we're concentrating on device control rules, and you'll see the rules that are already in there. All right. Now, the ones that have a blue dot under the state means they're active rules. So the first one that I have in there is the block removable storage device, exclude the EPO admins, right? So that is the one that's going to block all users, any type of USBs, but exclude the EPO admins. So I'm going to click on that one so you can just see how that was put together. So I gave it a name, block removable storage devices, exclude the EPO admins. I enabled it, assigned it a severity critical, enforced on both Windows and Mac under the conditions tab. It includes all users, right? And all, general removable storage devices. I created our CD-ROMs, and I created that all removable storage file system USB devices. So that's basically anything that can store anything that has a system, a file system, it's going to be detected. Now, under excluded users, I went ahead here under exception, excluded the EPO admins. So they don't get blocked, or basically they don't get affected by this rule. Now, the reaction, when the conditions are met, what action should this take when the computer is connected to the corporate network? We're going to block that user notification selection that I have there. I configured it ahead of time, and I call the tech learn user notification. That's my template. Here's where I describe when they violate the rule, they'll get that educational pop-up. Please refer to the company's website for the proper usage of removable storage. So you can customize that rule, and they'll click on that URL and or follow it, and then they can get details on the proper usages for removable storages here in the company. So that's going to be the message that gets displayed when they violate the rule. It's going to pop up. It's going to close after. I'm going to change it to 5 seconds. So when that pop-up pops up, it stays for 5 seconds, and then it closes automatically. And then for the report incident, I have that checked, and then it's going to send the event. Now, if you trigger the event while you're disconnected from the corporate environment, the default is react the same way as the connected system selections there on the top. So I'm going to save the rule. Now, the second one, block removable storage devices for EPO admins, exclude allowed devices. So this is the rule that centers around allow approved users to allow approve USBs. So I give it a name, enabled it, and on the condition here, I'm targeting just the EPO admins, right? So remember when I created that EPO admins user group, click OK. For the removable storage, I put in all of the removable storage things I could trigger under the exceptions. If I go down here, for exclude device definitions, I enabled it, and I'm specifying the allow removable storage USB devices, the one that I showed you guys earlier, where I'm listing the vendor product ID and serial number of those that would need to be excluded specifically, right? So, all right, so we have that excluded and enabled. When the conditions are met, what action should this take? So the actions, obviously, when they violate while they're connected to the corporate office, will block. They'll get that user notification. They'll stay for 5 seconds and report the incident, and then react the same way as disconnected should you violate the rule while you're away. So there you go. So those are the 3 rules that are within my rule set, and there you go. So monitor is the approved removable storage devices for excluded EPO admins. So this is the rule that we also want to assign that affects the EPO admins, because we want to track how often they plug and approve devices. So there we put EPO end users, or the end users of the EPO admins, the removable storage devices, the particular ones that are excluded, and there we're going to monitor when they violate the rule, and they'll get that educational pop-up, close out to 5 seconds, and then report the incident to EPO and react the same way as disconnected. So cool, we'll click save. So now we have those 3 rules for our rule set. So now the next thing we need to do is assign that rule set to a policy assignment for the system tree. So let me get out of that. So that is our next step. So again, after creating our rule set, next thing we need to do is assign, as my little, we'll need to assign the rule set to a DLP policy object, right? Which will then be mapped to a group in the system tree. We'll follow up with a wake up agents to push the policies and apply them to the endpoint machines. And then we'll test our device control rule sets. So cool. So let's do that. And so let me go into my console here. And so I'm in the DLP policy manager. I'm going to click here on policy assignments, actions. I'm going to go assign the rule set to a policy. And I'm going to first select my policy, the default DLP policy, and I'll make sure I check my block plug and play mobile storage device. And I already assigned it. And now the next thing, if I see that there's any pending changes, we're going to update any changes and then apply those selected policies. So anytime you modify a rule in a rule set, you'll get flagged pending changes. So you need to apply the changes by doing what we just did. And then we'll push out the policy. So there you go. We got our confirmation applied successfully, right? And so now we'll go to the system tree. We'll expand. We're going to be testing the workstation. So I'll click the workstation on the right side here, select the assigned policies. And let me just verify I have the correct DLP policy. Yep, I have my default DLP policy there for the DLP policy. So we're good to go. Yeah. So what's left? The next thing we need to do is push the policies out to the machines. So let me select my workstation 1 or all the machines there. Click on Wake Up Agents and then click OK and we push them out. And there you go. So now what's left? Now that the policies are applied, then we can now test the device control rule set. So there you go. Verifying the use case here with the rule set we just configured. So I'm going to be logging in as 3 people on workstation 1. Linda Harris, L. Harris, is a regular user with no rights to use approved or unapproved. So no matter what she plugs in, you're going to notice that they're both are going to get blocked. Then I'm going to log in as an approved user to be able to use approved USBs but block all others. So I'm going to do the same thing. You're going to observe the results there. And then I'm going to log in as a privileged user, Betty White. And I'm going to do the same thing there. And we're going to note the results. So let's test that out. So let me go into my computer here. And so I'm on my workstation 1. And notice that I'm logged in as Linda Harris. So I'm going to bring up my Microsoft Explorer so you can see there's 2 existing drives on the machine. So I just plugged in an unapproved device. So I'm selecting, so it shows up on workstation 1 here. And sure enough, you see it recognized there and is blocked. She gets the educational pop-up. Please consult the company's website there at the link on the proper use of removable storage devices. All right. So now I'm going to plug in the one that's on the approved list. And in her case, it's not going to matter. So now I'm going to make sure it gets connected here on workstation 1. So it's coming up. And in her case, since she can't use approved or unapproved, here she's getting blocked too. So the Kingston USB drive there is the one that's on the approved list. So yeah. So now I'm going to unplug these drives. I'm going to just send the events up to the console so we can kind of see those. I mean, they're eventually going to get up there. So now I'm going to go ahead and log out, sign out, and this time I'm going to log in as the approved user who's allowed to use approved USBs but block all others, which is B. Jones. So I'm going to log in here as B. Jones. All right, so B. Jones, fat fingers. All right, so I'm logging in as B. Jones. And same thing here. I am going to plug in the same USB drives, one from the unapproved and the approved list, and we're going to notice the results. All right, so we'll give it a shot here. And so you can see in the middle of the dashboard there, desktop, it's B. Jones. I'm logged in as B. Jones. Let me bring up my Microsoft Explorer, click on this PC so you can see the 2 existing drives on the virtual machine here. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug in a USB drive. All right, so let's see. All right. So let me connect it so it comes up on my workstation 1 here. Bam. All right. So it should be detected here, and this is the one on the unapproved list. So that one got blocked. All right, so this is good. So I'm going to leave that one plugged in there for a second. So let me plug in one from the approved list. All right, here we go. Connect to my virtual machine workstation 1 here. Bam, click OK. All right. So now this one I should get a USB device was monitored. Right. So there you go. So here B. Jones is allowed to use approved USBs but block all others. So let me send the events up there so we can go look at them in a little bit. All right. So let me log off. Now I'm going to log in as Betty White. And again, she's the executive founder of the company, so we never want to block her, not even by mistake, because she's got a little temper. Anyway, so B White, I'm gonna log in. User, all right. So I'm coming in here, and we'll give her a chance to log on. And again, she is a privileged user. So a privileged user, if she happens to be in a block rule, she never gets blocked. She gets monitored. So here we go. All right, so there in the center of the desktop there, you can verify that I'm logged in as B White there. Here we go. See that verification? So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Windows Explorer, bam, and I'm going to verify by clicking this PC that you can see the two existing drives there on the virtual machine. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in a USB here from the unapproved list. Workstation 1, okay. And you should be able to see that it gets monitored. So that is from the unapproved list, and in her case, she never gets blocked, so you get a confirmation that the insertion there generate a monitor event. So now I'm going to go ahead and now plug in one from the approved list, and again, let me select workstation 1, click OK. All right. It should also be detected and monitored. So in her case, no matter what type of removable storage, USB or any device, she just gets locked. So there you go. So now let me just send the events up there, and so we can see the events in the incident manager. So let's go. All right. So let me go to my EPO here. I'm going to go to the incident manager to see and verify the events. So the top two there is from Betty White, and you could see the actual action was no action. And then the two to follow below that were B. Jones. One was blocked and the other one was no action, so the approved and unapproved. And then under B. Jones, you see the last two events, the L. Harris, they both got blocked. Isn't that amazing? So there you go. So there we fulfilled that use case scenario. But let's look at one of these incidents here for B. Jones there. So in the incident manager, you see here on the general details, the date and time, the actual and expected action. If we wanted to, we could assign this to be reviewed by someone later. In the middle, you have the endpoint details. It shows you the machine, who the user was, the version of the data loss prevention. And on the right side here, you have the actual device details that triggered that particular event. So there's the serial number. And then down here, you have the vendor and product ID. On the bottom left corner here, you have the rule set and the rule that actually triggered with the configured action. And you have all those details in that incident. Isn't that nice? All right. So yeah. So B. Jones, if I click on the not approved, right? So again, you get all the details there. And the nice thing is this one with the approved that got monitored, you have the vendor product ID, and there's that serial number that matches in my allow USBs definitions, and that's the rule that actually triggered monitor approved removable storage. So they have those events and some details there. So let's go back to workstation 1. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take advantage and kind of demonstrate using what we call fast user switching. So right now, I'm logged in as Betty White, right? That was the last user I logged on. She can access both drives. So I'm going to leave the drives plugged in. I'm going to sign out, switch users, and I'm going to sign back in as Bob Jones. So remember, Bob Jones can use approve, but not approve. So the drives are still plugged in. I'm logged in as B. Jones. I try to click the Unapprove, I get blocked. The approve, I can access the contents. Isn't that amazing? So now I'm going to go ahead and log out. Keep both of those users currently logged on. I'm going to switch and log in now as Linda Harris. So if you recall, Linda Harris is a regular user, right? So I'm going to log in, Linda Harris, put in our password. So the USBs are still plugged in, and this is just to prove that data loss prevention endpoint enforces fast user switching. So right there, the unapproved gets blocked and the approved gets blocked. And there you go, guys. Fast user switching support as prescribed. Tips with built-in sample rule sets. I wanted to focus on this a bit. We could really immediately take one of these sample built-in rule sets and make a duplicate, especially like if I wanted to monitor all removable storage and plug-and-play devices in a stealthy manner. I could make a duplicate of one of those rules, rename it to monitor all rules and disable the user notification pop-ups. So that's stealth mode. People plug in USBs or anything they're not supposed to. You're not blocking now. It will actually send the events to the console, and we could see what devices, who's doing it, and get an assessment. Now we can take that same rule that we use to build the monitoring rule from the built-in rules and convert it to block by just changing the action to block all. So no matter, there's no allowing of any storage devices to be connected to your corporate machines. And then I can take that same rule, convert it, and customize it to fit a custom use case, as we did. Allow specific users to use allowed rule, allowed USBs, and block all others. So there you go. So let me show you this real quick. Let me go into my computer here. So I'm logging in here to my, I'm going to go to the menu here. I'm going to go to the DLP Policy Manager. Actually, I'm going to go here to my system tree. I went ahead and ahead of time here, I created 3 subgroups. A monitor, a block device all, and then a third group for my use case custom policy. Now, each of these, I went in here ahead of time, and in the DLP policy catalog for the DLP policy, I created 3 versions of the DLP policies where they're going to house those blocking rules to match the policy that I described there. So cool. All right. So let's go back to the DLP Policy Manager, and you'll see the tab that initially comes up is the rule sets. Now on the left, you have all these sample rule sets. Here in the center, those 2 blue icons, manage plug and play removable storage. We can actually take that one, make a duplicate, and now we could easily find our duplicate, and we're going to rename it. So we'll name it my 1-monitor, and I'll replace manage with monitor plug and play. Okay, so I'm inheriting the 2 sample rule sets that are there. Monitor removable storage, and the only thing I'm going to do, so there it's actually monitoring all users for all removable storage, but here in the reaction, I'm going to remove the user notification. So there, no action, and then here I'm just going to remove the default device manager user notification. So by removing it, they don't receive a pop-up. They don't get blocked, it just sends the event to the console. I'm going to do the same here for monitor USB plug and plays. So I'm going to go in there, and it's monitoring USB devices there. But in the reaction, I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to go ahead and user notification, disable that so the user doesn't get a pop-up when they plug in a USB. Save it and close that. So now all I need to do is associate this rule set to the DLP policy I created. So I'm going to come here to policy assignments. You'll see that my monitor plug and play rule set down here is not assigned to the current policy monitor all device control. So to associate it to that policy, I'm going to assign the rule set to a policy. Well, let me select first my policy. My policy first. And then I'm going to assign that rule set to that particular policy. So now you'll see a little red there. That's because initially when you first assign them, the policies need to be refreshed from the rule set. So now we're good to go. So now I can easily do the same thing for the block version and the use case device rule set. And what's nice is here I'm just verifying that my rule set isn't part of that DLP policy to monitor all device control. So the nice thing is I can find a machine, drop it in to that group that has a specific policy, just monitor, right? And select it, do an agent wake-up call, push it out, and then we could test it. So now I'm going to use the approved USB. Right? So let me bring up my Microsoft Explorer. See the two drives. I'm going to plug in the approved, the USB from the approved list. So because right now anything anybody plugs in is going to get monitored, that's what we're going to see. We're not going to see an educational pop-up from DLP, but we'll just see the acknowledgement that it allowed the drive to appear. And so in the background is sending the event. So now just to show you, I'm going to come into EPO again. I'm going to select the machine. Actually, we'll come over here to the incident manager. If I come here to the incident, we can see that it did pick up the alert. Now I set up an automatic response to notify me if there's any unapproved removable storage detected in my network. So that's another thing you could do. But yeah, there it verifies. And anyway, here's my email that I'm receiving every time somebody generates an event for any insertions of unapproved devices. So I'm dropping it into the duplicate rule set that I changed the actions to block all. So to apply the policies, I'm just going to do a quick wake-up call. There you go. Click OK. Now, if I plug in a USB, I'm going to plug in the one that's in the approved list. It's going to get blocked. Anything you put in this one while you have that rule set policy applied, it's going to get blocked. All right. So now I can select that machine and drop it into my use case device control policy. And here, this is the same as the original. Block all USBs, allow some users to use allow USBs. So now when I plug in my allowed USB from that list, it gets monitored. Isn't that amazing? So pretty cool. So the spotlight focus of getting started really early, quickly by using those sample built-in rule sets, you could really accelerate and start to monitor as quickly as I showed you here. You could take one of those default managed removable storage and plug and play and convert it as a monitor, and you can kind of start going to town. And then create also a duplicate of that one. Just change the actions to block and enable the notification, and you're on your way. With the custom use case, then you would have to, as we did, or as I did, is collect the vendor product ID and serial numbers are the ones that you want to put in your approved list to exclude to allow approved users to use. So there you go, guys. I just wanted to point that out. Take advantage of your built-in sample rule sets that exist. There is quite a collection in there, and that will get you started right away. And with that, I'll hand it back to Nick for Q&A. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, George. As a reminder for everyone, Trellix Education Services offers exceptional training to go along with our award-winning products. If you would like to learn more, please visit the website listed on your screen to see all of our offerings. Now let's get our Q&A session started. I see we have several questions, but it's not too late to add your question. Please type it in the Q&A window to submit. Additionally, take a moment to fill out the survey. Your feedback and suggestions are always appreciated. Can you allow users to access or use USB devices generally, but restrict or block only files that are classified as sensitive or containing confidential content?
Using that use case we used to demo in this scenario, we could, the one that we used to allow users to use approved devices but block all others, we could actually combine that with the data protection rule, and then you can include your classifications of any sensitive content you want to filter out and block that as well. So yeah, you can easily do that. Great question.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that one, George. Are we able to drop workstations into a system tree, workstations, USB control policies, or can we also block by specific users? That way, it wouldn't matter what workstation they're using.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we could do, there's a couple of ways we could do that. You could, the scenario that we had in the system tree, you can, actually drop any person in there, or we could actually do a rule set the way we did it based on users, block, you could actually target specific users and then apply that use case as well. And another thing that I wanted to do, there was just not enough time, is kind of show you guys how to use a policy assignment rule where you can assign your protection rule and then on a tag and then assign it to the machine, and then Agent Wake will call, and they have those policies exclusively assigned to those machines. So if you had that monitor all bus type rules, removable storage or plug and play, and you assigned it to a policy assignment to a tag, let's say you wanted to say, let me put Jesus machine in monitor mode, and let's see if they're triggering any events. I can apply that tag that has that policy assignment of that particular monitor all devices rule, and Agent Wake up call, and then we could see what's triggering, and then we can get an assessment. But yeah, cool, good question there.
Awesome, thank you, George. We have another question. Will support for USB VID PID codes property come back for Windows 11 since they changed the way USB plug and play devices are detected? Currently, we're using device instance ID instead of VID and PID. Unfortunately, I'm not sure about this one, but what I'll do is I'll take this question and follow up with you after the webinar so we can get an answer to this one for you.
Yeah, sounds good. Yep. Excellent.
All right, cool. I think that's all the questions that we had for today's session. Before we close, just a quick preview of what's ahead. Our next webinar is going to focus on the upcoming DLP 11.12 update, highlighting key enhancements and what you need to know coming up. The registration link will be shared via email to all registrants in this session within a week or two, so keep an eye on your email inbox for that one. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. Thank you all for attending, and a special thank you to our speaker, George, for an excellent presentation.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week, and hope to see you soon again. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, George. As a reminder, a link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all registered attendees. This concludes today's webinar. Stay safe, everyone.